And we're back with another Roto Hackers podcast. I have returned as your host, AJ Herschel, the kid, and I am here with, let me see if I get the right side, Chuda Buddha, and over here we have, it's Jared, and we are back giving you the news and your stardom situms for week 8. Gentlemen, how are your fantasy weeks going? How did Thursday treat you guys?
Well, I had Bailey. I had Bailey in a couple leagues, and he did pretty nice.
Nice.
I had let's see, what did I have? I had Kirk Cousins going in one league because I wasn't sure if Matt Ryan was going to play.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really want to start him because I was afraid. I thought he could do okay. Well, I thought he could have they might let him throw a little bit more because it was Washington, his former team. But I knew okay, Washington's probably not going to be able to score either. So he didn't really produce a whole lot. But and so Dalvin Cook did. But the good thing was, let's see, my opponents. So I only had Cousins going in one. My opponents, 3 of my opponents had him going. So he didn't really score that much for them. So that actually worked out pretty well for me.
Okay, so it worked out in the long run. So I'm not sure, honestly, how much news there is today, except the possibility that Ryan, Kamara, and David Johnson all play.
Or all sit.
So, or all sit. So is it safe to start any of them at all?
And Keenan Allen.
Oh, yeah.
Him too. I forgot about him. Yeah. So is there a possibility that any of them play, don't play? What is the scenario for you guys? Is it worth starting them?
I'll start with Keenan Allen and say I'm going to avoid starting him because he may not play at all. They're playing Chicago, so it's in Chicago. He hasn't done much for several weeks. So he's going to bounce back at some point, but I don't know if this is going to be it. And then the last thing I saw was that even if he does play, he's going to be on a snap count. He's going to see limited snaps. So that's about 4 strikes and you're out for me.
Yeah, I'm sitting him. I don't know what to do with. I've got Kamara in one of my most important leagues, and but I have Latavius Murray, so I'm just keeping a real. I traded last week. I traded. What's his name? Chargers running back
Melvin Gordon or Austin Eckler?
Austin Eckler for Latavius, and I don't know. The only thing the upside for me was I get to interchange those guys. So if all you have is AK-47, I would say just play him. Alvin Kamara.
Oh boy. Okay. What about Matt Ryan then? Do you guys think he's going to end up starting?
They're supposed to evaluate his ankle today. Was the last thing I saw. So I think it'll probably kind of depend on that. There's really not much reason for. I mean, the Falcons' season's gone, and it's a bye week after this week. It makes no real sense for him to play. But he's got a string of consecutive starts, I guess, that he probably wants to keep, and Dan Quinn is just dead man walking. So it's just a question of when is he going to get fired in the bye week, or are they going to wait till at the end of the season? I saw one thing that said Ryan wanted to play to help him, I guess, preserve the job maybe till the end of the season. But I mean, it's going to happen regardless, I think. So so I think unless I think Ryan plays unless the trainers say structurally, you could really do some more damage. The ligaments are strained. You could tear them or something. I think unless they say that, I think if it's just a pain issue and there's not a huge risk of further injury, I think he probably plays.
Jude Wuda, what do you think?
I don't know. I really don't care. I don't have a lot of Falcons, and I don't know how much of a difference a hobbled whatever his
Matt
name
Ryan.
is, Matt Ryan would be to Matt Schaub.
Oh, Matt Schaub, gotcha.
I mean, if you're worrying whether or not to play Ryan, I wouldn't. No, I'd like Jared. I would have played somebody else. But I mean, I'd put somebody else in there.
Yeah, I mean,
he hasn't done great anyways. So
he hasn't done bad. He's been at least like top 7.
He had a bad week last week, but
Yeah.
before that, it was like back-to-back 30-point games.
Who are they playing?
The Seahawks. So
I'd sit him.
Like I don't know. The other guys you mentioned, like it looks like Kamara's going to play. If you've also got Latavius Murray, then it doesn't matter. You can plug whoever in there, and they're probably going to get some points against the Cardinals. Breeze, yeah, that's another one. Like it really makes no sense for him to play. They've got a bye week coming up next week too. Bridgewater's been doing fine. It's the Cardinals, but Breeze just wants to get back out there. So I don't know what happens with that. I would think they would keep him out another week unless it just looks like they're like, okay, he's 100% healed, let him go.
Right. Well, what about Christian Kirk then? He's a game time decision this week. So if you have like Marquise Brown or Amari Cooper or someone or Michael Gallup on bye this week, do you risk starting him?
There's so many other players you could put in there. Like go pick up, I don't know,
Corey Davis.
Yeah, AJ
Brown.
Yeah, those guys probably do better.
Yeah, Titans have good matchups. Christian Kirk, I mean, they're in the, he's been a good possession, not necessarily exactly possession. He's had a lot of targets. But, I mean, they're in New Orleans. I don't know how much the Cardinals are going to move the ball consistently. Yeah, he's been banged up. I think, there's just he's been a good, at the beginning of the season, he was a good guy to have like as a, high floor guy. But at this point, after all the time he's missed and just not knowing if he's going to play or not, there's probably, plenty of better options out there.
So there's one thing that I kind of noticed, and in one league I'm 5-1, and so I was able to get Emmanuel Sanders off the waiver wire for some reason. And so the 49ers have reportedly said that Emmanuel Sanders is going to play a lot. So going forward, he's really the best wide receiver that they have over in San Francisco. So how do you guys think he's going to end up evolving into that role, especially now that they've said they want him to be the number 1, essentially? Jared, looks like you have something to say.
Well, I can offer something. Sure. I just don't know. It's hard for me to really put a lot of faith in a receiver. Like we've talked about, when guys change teams in the off season, like it can be a tough adjustment for them to go to a new team in the off season and then have a good first year. When they change mid season, like that's, really, makes me skeptical. So, he did well in Denver. He came back from that Achilles injury, and people thought that he wouldn't really have any. His skills would be really diminished, but hasn't been the case in at least several games. He's had some pretty good games. I just don't know that, changing teams mid-season, and no more than San Francisco really likes to throw the ball. They're a team with a good defense. They've got a good tight end. They've got a good running game. Jimmy Garoppolo just hasn't really looked great. And, some of that, part of that can be, his lack of receiving weapons. But I think to the degree it's more than that. It's just kind of him. So I wasn't, even though Sanders was out there in some of my waiver wires, I just wasn't like rushing out to get him. So
Buddha.
I think he goes to a better quarterback. I think Jimmy Polo's like way better than Joe Flacco. The look on Joe Flacco's face, man. Last week, was it Monday? It just looked like this guy. I don't know. We talked about it. How he just checked out, and I don't know. He goes to somebody like Jimmy Polo, who is up and coming, rising, learning, getting better every week, and I think he could be. The more I look at him, the more I think this could be huge for Emmanuel Sanders. I think he could start being a star. I didn't really start thinking about it till Jared, you mentioned that the other guys aren't really that good. And I guess I looked at them and I was like, yeah, you're right. They really aren't. They're not doing much with any of the targets they're getting. And I've always been a fan of Emmanuel Sanders. I think he can do great. He has the route running capabilities and, open field speed to really take this offense, stretch it for sure.
Mm.
I wonder how it's going to affect Kittle. I got Kittle almost everywhere, so I wonder if it's going to steal some targets from him. What do you think, Jared? Do you think it will?
I don't think so. I mean, he's not been, he hasn't really. I mean, he's kind of caught on lately. But his first three or so games, it was like 55 yards or so a game. He's had a couple of nice games since then. 70-yarder and a 103-yarder in weeks 5 and 6. But for the most part, he just, it's not like he's really been going off. He's got one touchdown. And he's he's topped 57 yards in 2 out of 6 games. So I just don't think there's that much to really, take from him. I think just the balls that other receivers aren't catching, Sanders hopefully will, but I don't think it really takes away from Kittle or their running game.
Well, before we get into stardom sims, because unless you guys see any other news out there, I don't really think there's anything else.
I'm curious your guys' take on the Josh Gordon thing. Do you think
that he's on IR?
No, well, he's not really injured. He's not injured that badly. He'd be back in like a week or two. You think he's done? I think he just might be done physically. Or did you think he got caught with pot or something? What were you going to say?
No, I don't. Well, that's always possible. But I mean, I think it's probably just, probably physically it's just not working. I mean, why people are always, trying to figure out like why is he not catching more balls? Why is Philip Dorsett able to, come up with some big play touchdowns and Gordon isn't? I think maybe it is just, all that time, that he was away from football, we just haven't seen anything that looked like that 2013 or whatever it was season that he had. And it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of like almost kind of like the Antonio Brown situation, except physically, not mentally, where it's like if Antonio Brown can't mentally make it in the Patriots structure and system, where's he going to go that it's going to work? And kind of the same thing with Josh Gordon. Like if you can't make it in the Patriots system where, they've got a good defense, got a good running game, they can devise ways to get you open. You've got a great quarterback throwing to you. Like, where's he going to go that he's going to be able to make the fantasy impact that he didn't make in New England? So, even if Josh Gordon lands somewhere else, unless it's just like on a really bad team where he would be the unquestioned number one wide receiver, and I'm trying to think of like, where would be a place that he could end up that would work. I just don't, I don't really see it. I don't really see him being a guy that I would pick up the rest of the year.
I think kind of the interesting thing with the Josh Gordon situation is that the Patriots, like, it was almost ridiculously smart to put him on IR because you can only bring back 2 people from IR during a year. N'Keal Harry's coming back. They're probably going to use the other one on Isaiah Wynn. So if he stays on IR the entire year and when he becomes a free agent, he's only allowed to become a free agent in the waiver wire reverse order of how well the team did, meaning the teams that get first pickings on him are Redskins, Dolphins, Falcons. So if he does get picked up by someone in free agency, there's almost a 0 chance he gets picked up by someone like the Chiefs. So if the Patriots don't decide to re-sign him next year, there's almost a 100% guarantee another team that picks him up is going to be a pretty bad team. So it's not looking great for the future Josh Gordon, if I'm being entirely honest.
Yeah.
I mean, unless he becomes big somewhere else.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if there was the option to where he had to clear waivers. I thought it was to where he had to clear waivers this year during the year, but it's not till the off season.
Yeah, it's not till the off season.
Okay.
I don't think.
I don't. I think somebody could pick him up this season.
I don't know. I think because he's still on IR right now. Because if they held on to him and then released him after,
I think they released him.
Go to waivers.
I think what they're talking about is let me look on thing real quick.
I don't think he's not on their IR anymore, is he?
I'm pretty sure he's still there.
He is on IR, but I guess the he's
still there.
Yeah, but they're saying he's expected to be medically cleared in 1 to 2 weeks.
Oof.
And so like Yahoo's little blurb says, Gordon is worth stashing for the chance he lands in a starting role with another team. Assuming he gets cleared, that could happen in the next 2 weeks. So basically what they're saying is, he's on IR right now, but he'll get medically cleared, and then I don't think they can keep him on IR at that point. And so then he would be, they would probably have to release him, and then he would, have to clear waivers. But I mean, for the teams that are tanking, I don't think they want to help themselves. I don't think the Dolphins or the Bengals would pick him up. The Redskins might. That would be a Redskins move. But one of those might. But I could see him landing with more like a mid-level team.
So maybe something more like a Titans or something like that. Maybe.
I would have to kind of look through the list of teams here to see. I don't know if Judah was about. Were you about to say Buffalo, or who were you about to say?
No. I was gonna say if he went with Washington, I'd pick him up. I think that would be a pretty nice spot for him.
Yeah, maybe so. I'm just trying to think of. I have to like pull up the standings to like really like look through the list of teams and be like, all right, who's this team got for receivers? Who might? I mean, part of it always comes down to injuries. Like who, if someone loses a receiver to injury, they might try to replace them. Maybe a Pittsburgh would try. I mean, I think there's, a couple of the, like maybe Pittsburgh or Baltimore, either one. I could see them maybe picking him up. I think those would probably be the best fits kind of in AFC. And then, somewhere like Green Bay that's had tons of receiver injuries.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean they've talked about them trading for AJ Green or something like that, and it doesn't really look like an AJ Green trade's going to happen. But maybe like a Green Bay or a Washington, like we talked about, maybe depending on what happens in Philadelphia if Deshaun Jackson ever comes back, or they've been saying like another week or two for nearly 2 months now. So maybe they would pick him up. They're in sort of in the conversation for a lot of rumors about them getting somebody. So I think there's places, but I don't know. It's just so hard. I mean, Golden Tate, went to Philadelphia in the middle of last year, I guess it was, and I mean, just didn't do too much. Now he's with the Giants, and while Sterling Shepard's out, he's the number one guy. But man, I think it takes almost like a Antonio Brown or AJ Green type to like really just be able to come in and not necessarily even really know the plays that well, just be able to just like get open or out jump people and catch the ball. If guys really don't have that physical ability, and it looks like a lot of Gordon's is gone, then it's hard for me to really imagine them, coming in and making an impact this season.
Amen to that.
Intriguing. So, gentlemen, it's Stardom Sidham's time. And which one of you would like to go first in choosing who would you like to bring up?
I'll let Judah go on that one.
No, thank you.
Oh, okay.
All right, so my first one is Brady. Tom Brady, start him, sit him. So most people have, if you have been starting Tom Brady, you probably have somebody else on your waiver or wire or probably on your bench that you originally drafted, because I think Tom Brady for the most part went undrafted or drafted very low.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been great. I don't think he's going to do great against this newly healthy Browns team. I mean, they've, for the most part, been relying on their defense to score all their points. Would you start him, sit him against like someone like Jared Allen? I mean, not Jared Allen, Josh Allen, or, somebody, another one, Dalton, I'd worry about playing Brady over Dalton.
Oh, that's a little too far for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be your level.
That would be, yeah. I have to be pretty desperate to play Andy Dalton, especially this year. Like,
what about Brissett? Would you play him over Brissett?
For the matchup, I would still play Brady because Denver's got a pretty good secondary. And Jacoby has done better than I thought he would this year. But if you look at the teams that he's really blown up against, it's secondaries that just aren't that great. So the Falcons, Oakland, and Houston.
Yeah, probably the bottom three, other than the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, and so Denver's got a good secondary. They've given up the third fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. Now, if he did he's got two tough challenges the next couple of weeks: Denver this week, and then at Pittsburgh next week. And then his schedule softens up some more. But I would be, he may make a believer out of me, but I would be leery of playing him in either one of those. I think the Colts are going to try to run the ball, go back to kind of some of that stuff, again, like he's kind of been Jekyll or Hyde, not because he's played poorly necessarily, but just because the Colts have tried to just take whatever the other team gave them, and so that first game against the Chargers, he played efficiently, but he, completed 21 or 27 passes for 190 yards, and he had a couple of touchdowns. He had 16.5 points. Similar thing in week 2, where he only threw for 146 yards, but he had 3 touchdowns. So he had 17 plus points. And then the Kansas City game, which would have, you would have thought that would have been like a shootout type game. But the Colts wanted to kind of, keep the ball away from the Chiefs and control the ball. And, he had under 12 points because he only threw for 151 yards. So he's really, I think it's still going to be a case where
so he's playing Denver.
Yeah.
So so it might be a Big Mac game.
It could be a Big Mac game. Yeah. And he hasn't had one in a few weeks. So, I think, I'm streaming Mac in some DFS lineups.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Because, but who knows, maybe Jacoby does go off, but, so far the track record has kind of been, they really go heavy on the run or they really go heavy on the pass. And if Denver's got the third ranked secondary against quarterbacks, it seems like it's not, the game plan probably won't be to have Jacoby throw it a lot.
I like your take on that. That's good.
So back to the original question. Yeah. I would play Brady. Like Cleveland just doesn't scare me.
I think they should.
Well, it's not that their defense isn't good. But
they just got back their 2 best players.
True. But it's more about the fact of like how many opportunities is Brady going to have with the ball? Like how often is Cleveland's offense like? It's like that. It was like the Saints Bears game from last week where like I didn't really think Latavius would have that good of a game. And through the first half, I mean, he didn't really do that much. But then, like midway through the third quarter, like they just started, like the Bears offense could never keep the ball. And so their defense just got worn down. And so I feel like it's almost kind of a similar situation with Cleveland here, where I can't imagine them being able to, the way Baker Mayfield has played, now translate that into New England, which is one of the hardest places to play ever under any circumstances. But then you put that up against his lack of pass protection, how turnover prone he's been, how inaccurate he's been, and how good New England's defense has been. So it's just hard for me to imagine that Brady won't get a lot of chances, even if the execution isn't maybe what it would be against weaker defenses.
Watch the game tape of Browns versus 49ers. That's going to be how this game goes.
No, I disagree.
I completely agree. The Patriots defense is going to eat up the Browns offensive line. And even if that doesn't happen, the Browns defense isn't going to be good enough to stop the Patriots.
No, the Patriots have a terrible offensive line.
I think when they get into the goal line, the Patriots offensive line is fine.
No, it's terrible.
It's fine. You don't see Brady going to the ground 7 times a game. This is not
Yes, you do.
Watson type stuff. No.
Yes, you do. Anytime they've played anybody with a pass rush, Brady's on his back most of the game.
Either way, no. I don't think the Browns defense doesn't scare me at all. At all.
We'll see.
Nowhere in the realm of possibility.
Those ghosts that chased Sam Darnold, they're going to turn into poltergeists for Baker Mayfield. They're just going to get meaner and scarier. Baker
Mayfield's he's a different quarterback than Sam Darnold. Safe space Sam, as Pat Mayo calls him. I disagree. I mean, we'll see. We never know, but I think they've had time to game plan this out. They're getting everybody healthy. I think after last game, I'm watching Mayfield settle down, and I think they could win. I think the Browns could win this game, if not keep it close.
Wow.
I'd like to point out for the record that Tom Brady's been only sacked 10 times, which is 24th in the league.
But if you watch the games, like he's got the quickest release. Like
he does, yeah.
So for him, he's been on his back way more than I've ever seen him.
It's gonna be fine.
So he's been sacked 10 times. So that's about 1.5, not quite, or 1.4 per game. So the Giants, interestingly enough, so here's the interesting part. The Giants, the Redskins, and the Dolphins are responsible for his sacks. Buffalo actually did not sack him. Interestingly enough,
I don't know if Buffalo has the best pass rush though.
Right.
I mean, definitely the Giants definitely have the best pass rush. They have one of the best pass rushers, top 20 in the league.
Yeah.
Well, that's more than half of the league, so that just means they're at least mediocre if they're top 20, though.
No. I mean, maybe top 10 in the league then.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that Giants game. It was sort of a weird game because he still threw for 334 yards, and against Washington he threw for 348 yards. It's just the Giants game. He didn't have a lot of passing touchdowns. They were just like bulldozing it through from 4 yards out on quarterback sneaks. I mean, I think the yards. He's gone. He's been at 250 yards or more basically in every game except the one at Buffalo. I don't know. I'm just not. I'm not particularly worried about Brady. I am now interested. I'm now more interested in this game because I'm curious to see if your prediction turns out to be right. Because it's just hard for me. Because the thing that Cleveland does is. Or I'm sorry, the thing that New England does is, they shut down the run and they defend your best receiver, And so Stephon Gilmore is going to be on OBJ, who Cleveland's been trying to force the ball to. And then they're going to try to shut down Chubb. And so the two things that Cleveland wants to do and their two by far best players are, probably going to be taken away from him. So I think this will say a lot about Freddie Kitchens and Baker Mayfield's ability to adjust, because it's not like this is a secret of what the Patriots try to do to you. You're going to have to game plan to throw the ball or to move the ball, other ways. So if they just try to still force OBJ and try to force Chubb, like that's going to be a long.
I think it's going to be tough for OBJ, but I think Chubb's going to have a huge game. Huge game.
Well, we have two questions in the chat. Two Visions, sorry it took us a minute. Big House 2, we'll get to your question real quick. Two Visions asks, would you start Austin Hooper without Matt Ryan? That's simple. Judah Buddha, I know you've been a big Austin Hooper fan for a while. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. The Seahawks are not that great against tight ends, and I mean Austin Hooper can't get any more targets, but I think he will be somebody that Matt Schaub dumps off to.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if you have, like, if your backup is Travis Kelce or your backup is Hunter Henry or something, I mean, maybe then, but I mean, most people don't have two good tight ends. And I mean, Hooper's been the best tight end. So unless you happen to have another great option, then I think regardless of which Matt is in there, you probably start him.
Yeah, the shocking thing is that Hooper's honestly been better than Kittle and Kelce and Ertz in some respects.
He's the number one wide receiver, number one tight end.
Tight end, like in terms, especially of consistency. Like he scored more than 10 points basically almost every game, except I think like 3, except 2 of those came at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and that's not a fluke. I mean, he, Matt Ryan used to love to throw to Tony Gonzalez, and he had nobody in that position for years, which was weird. That the Falcons never made that much of an effort to really, replace him. And so they tried Levine Toilolo, who was not a pass catcher at all. And then they finally drafted Hooper, who was just like a third round, pick. He wasn't even first or second or something like that. So, it's taken him a few years to develop, but he's gotten better every year. And I mean, like going forward, if he and Ryan both stay together on the Falcons, I mean, he's going to be like tight end 1 again next year. Like this, it's not just like a fluke thing. So,
yeah, I totally agree with you. Big House 2K, he's a new subscriber. Thanks for subscribing. Helps out. Pick 2 out of Jamal Williams, David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, and Lat Murray. Half PPR. Thanks in advance. Oh boy, Jared, do you want to start us off with this one?
Sure. So if Kamara plays, if Kamara is expected to get a full load, then I would go Williams and, gosh, as much as I hate to say this, Montgomery.
Montgomery, really?
Yeah, because they're playing, because the Chargers' run defense is not good. If Singletary was playing somebody other than the Eagles. But the Eagles have a very good run defense. Latavius Murray just hasn't done anything other than last week's game where Kamara was out. Judah's giving me a funny look. We'll double check this. Let's double check.
No, he hasn't, but like he is now. Just because he hasn't doesn't mean he's not going to going forward.
Well, but I mean, he's got, he's not really a pass catcher all that much. I mean,
Yes, he is. He caught like 4 balls last week.
I think he caught more than that.
Okay, let's look. Well, I don't know what he caught last week. I
mean, he had 6 targets. He had 6 targets and 5 receptions, I believe.
He had a huge day last week. Yeah. But, I mean, if Kamara's back and getting a full load, I mean, prior to that, he hadn't had double-digit points since week 1. So he did catch again, but I mean, he was in the full-time load. So from, and the week before that, he caught 3. Prior to that, it was like 4 yards, 16 yards, no yards, 6 yards, 6 yards. So, I mean, I'm not saying he can't ever catch a pass or he can't ever have a good day, but it's like what's most likely to happen. So if Kamara's back, then I just wouldn't expect him to get that much of a workload. You have to hope he gets a touchdown.
I hear what you're saying, but like they're playing Arizona, and I think if Kamara does come back, even if they say he's going to get a full load, whatever, I think Latavius Murray is going to end up finishing out that game. Just predicting the game, I believe in my mind, the Saints win and win big, and they're not really going to have to rely on the pass catching and prowess of AK-47 Alvin Kamara. That it's going to be another big Latavius game, whether he plays or not, whether Kamara plays or not. That's my take.
Maybe, but Arizona's actually not been as bad as you would think against the run. So they've given up the 9th fewest fantasy points to running backs somehow. I think it's because like the other team runs the ball down there and then they throw to their tight end, which Arizona can't guard at all. Mm-hmm. You can make an argument for, like you're really like rolling the dice if you go David Montgomery, because you don't know what you're going to get. But I don't know. I think with it being the Chargers, as bad as they've been against the run, I would almost be inclined to like sort of roll the dice on him and hope he gets carries, unlike last week where he got like 2 carries.
Did he get any? I didn't see him in the game at all.
He got 2 carries. It was painful.
Yeah. So, that was weird. That was a bizarre situation there. Prior to that, he was getting double-digit carries at least.
The coach did say, I know I'm not an idiot. We need to run the ball more. Yeah. So I don't know. Is he an idiot?
Offensive line. No, the Bears' offensive line is horrible. We were top 5 2 years ago, and now we're bottom 10 right now. Trubisky's not having time to throw the ball, and then when he does throw the ball, he throws it 50 times and isn't doing well anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah,
that's my mini Bears fan rant.
Yeah, they did not hold up well against. I watched part of that game. They did not hold up well against the Saints. Part of it's Trubisky. Even if he has time, he's not going to throw the ball that well. But they just had. It was just basically a wet paper bag for the Saints D line to run through.
Eesh. Oh boy. So the 2 you're going with are
me?
I think he's going with Murray.
Jamal and Murray, yeah. I'm going with Williams and Murray.
I'm gonna roll the dice and say Montgomery, because I think because basically, like, aside from last week, he was putting up similar points to Latavius every week. For Montgomery, it was from weeks 2 through 5, it was 13 plus, 9 plus, 8 plus, 10 plus, which is a little bit more than what Murray was doing. But it would depend on, if it looks like if there's some word that comes out that Murray's going to get half the carries in New Orleans or something. If he gets half the carries, I would start him over Montgomery.
Big House 2K also asked, he also says that, we'll run over this real quick, that Matt Nagy is the worst coach walking. Judah Buddha, you're a Packers fan. What do you think?
Matt Nagy is the worst coach walking? I don't know. Why?
Well, people have gotten frustrated with it. I think just like, I don't know, he seems to just have some random. I would like to see what he would be with a competent quarterback.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a it's a quarterback driven league, and if you don't have a quarterback, then you have to like try all this crazy stuff. And I think maybe he's just gotten to a point where he's just like out thinking himself or something, because he just seems like he's doing weird stuff. So he's supposed to be a great play caller. But it is kind of funny because when the hiring process was going on, the Colts had him in for an interview first. And when he did his inaugural or his introductory press conference with the Bears, he made it out like basically implied that he had like picked the Bears over the Colts, that like Chris Ballard wanted him, but he just, couldn't do it. He had to go to this situation. And he said that part of the reason he really liked this situation was because of Mitch Trubisky.
Really?
Because
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because he was with the Chiefs at the time that that he was with the Chiefs the year before, and so he was part of the scouting process because they scouted Mahomes, they scouted Trubisky because that's the year that they took Mahomes after Trubisky. And but he really liked Trubisky, and so he made this big deal of how much he thought of Mitch Trubisky. Well, so now and I don't know if the Colts ever offered him that job or not, but now it's a little bit funny to me now to see because he sort of made it out like, oh yeah, well they just didn't quite have enough to get my talents, and so anyway.
I just think there's so many worse
AJ,
coaches.
AJ the Bears fan is like,
yeah.
I mean, it could be way worse. I even think Gase is the worst coach. You got Bill O'Brien, bottom of the Mike Tomlin. They're higher up, or lower down on the list for me.
See, the problem with Nagy is that he keeps trying to cover up Chicago's problems, like they aren't that big. It's like Jared, you brought up for like the picture of the dog and like the house is on fire. He's like, "This is fine." It's like, no, it's not fine.
Right?
Yeah, our offense is like such a mess. It's like crazy, but it's like I feel like last year our offense was fine. Like it was decent, but the problem was we were really gimmicky. Yeah. So as soon as people start catching up to those gimmicks and we lose a good starting offense, everyone wises up to that and they're like, "Fine, we'll put man coverage on your wide receivers. Beat us with your passing."
Yeah, you can only do that for so long, and so long is about maybe 2 games. If you don't have a quarterback that can complete passes, and this is what Carolina is finding out too, where Cam, whether or not it was the injury or his abilities degrading or whatever. I mean, he's never been the most accurate passer, and so if he does get an injury, then it does just throw him off even worse. And so but they've been winning not because Kyle Allen is a great quarterback, but because if you have a good defense and good players, good skill players on your offense, if your quarterback can just make throws in the right situations, then you can win if you've got a good running game and and receivers that can kind of pick him up a little. But the thing is like Mitch Trubisky can't do that. That's when he's at his worst, is when you need him to make the throw. It's I saw a thing, not to get too far off on a rabbit trail, but I saw a thing of like trade possibilities for the Bears, like basically saying the Bears need to accept the fact that they need to trade for a quarterback. And so the trade possibilities that they listed, most of them were absurd. It was let's see, one of them was Cam, and the Panthers aren't trading Cam. They may not start him again, but they're not trading him. Or Marcus Mariota, which would almost be like a little bit more than a lateral move from Trubisky. But one I did see was like Nick Foles, because Minshew has done so well for the Jags. Maybe the Jags would want to trade Foles and get draft picks. I think that would make a lot of sense for both teams. So we'll see if anything like that happens. But I think that would, if the money would work out right, because with Foles having just signed, I don't know what the contracts, how much of a cap hit that would be. But in terms of like fit, for both teams, I think that'd be perfect.
Yeah. Another thing that we could do is if we wanted to go in free agency and save like our first, I think we have a first round, second round draft pick, and then we don't have a third round. So what we could do is shore up the offensive line in first round and get someone like, I don't know, Case Keenum or someone in free agency. He only has 1 year left on his contract. If for some reason, I mean, remember, he took the Vikings to the NFC Championship game. Let's not forget. And then I saw this crazy article one time over the whole Tom Brady thing, and that he's in the last year of his contract, and that Brady could become a Chicago Bear, to which I'm like, it probably won't happen, but it's a miracle scenario, because if it worked, it worked, but I don't know. It's all speculation at this point. Big House 2K asked, pick one for this week. DJ Moore, Cooks, Devontae Parker, Alex Erickson. Okay. The last one threw me off a little bit. All right.
Yeah, I got to look up Alex Erickson. He's not.
I remember people talking about him, but I can't remember where he is. I think he may be with
Cincinnati.
Okay, Cincy. Yeah, he had a big game.
One blow-up game. Yeah. Had 137 yards. That was his big game.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he did have a ton of targets in that. Yeah, that's tough to predict. Like, is he gonna get that kind of volume again?
It's gonna be Alden Tate this time,
Yeah.
For me, it's Cooks. I know he hasn't done anything in a while, but DJ Moore against San Francisco. San Francisco, that's going to be a tough. Actually, I think if Kyle Allen can get the ball out to him, like San Francisco's secondary is not that great, but I feel like Kyle Allen's just going to be running for his life. Parker's got Pittsburgh. They've got a good secondary, and I don't really trust Erickson, and it feels like Cooks is due. And it's Cincinnati, so I'd go Cooks.
Agreed. Oh, it says pick one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just Cooks.
All right. Two Visions asked question. Thank you for your patience. Thoughts on Drew Brees possibly playing on Sunday? Would he perform better than Watson, Wilson, Rodgers, or Stafford? Wow, that's a list. What do you guys think if he plays on Sunday?
Not the first two. I mean, Rodgers and Stafford, they could have big games too. I don't know.
I don't play him. I don't play him over any of those because they've all got good matchups. You know.
Yeah, that's good.
Watson's I think Oakland. Yeah. Wilson's Atlanta. Rodgers. Yeah. Rodgers is probably the only one that I would really consider it for, even though he had that big blow up game last week.
Yeah.
I think he has a little bit of a letdown game this week.
I think, yeah, probably so. I would consider it for Rodgers, but not. Also, like, does this guy have all these quarterbacks on his team?
or on the
or is this a two-team league?
Maybe he's talking about DFS. I don't know.
Maybe he's talking about DFS. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in that case, I'm playing Stafford in some DFS just because he's cheaper than some of those other guys. But yeah. Go ahead.
Stafford's going to be kind of chalk for DFS. But I mean, QB, it's always pretty flat. But Stafford could have a letdown game here. You know, who are they playing again?
Giants.
I don't know. Like we said, Giants have a good pass rush. It could be difficult for him. More than people are thinking, and I've been thinking that Stafford could have a big blow up game. But I don't know. For some reason, narrative street, I feel like this could be a letdown spot for him, where everybody's smashing that Stafford button. And in the past, Stafford has been a letdown in places like this.
I feel like his letdown game was against Green Bay, where he only put up 11 points. And then the next week where he put up 29 against who was it? I think it was Miami last week. Or no, sorry, Minnesota. It was Minnesota. Yeah. Who have a decent secondary. And so I think he had his down week already. I think he'll be more consistent going forward.
He's also one of those guys that I trust better when he's at home. You know,
that is true.
And that's not to say that he can't have a good road game, because he's not like kind of how Ben or Drew Brees were in the past, where it was like you just knew they were going to blow up at home and they were going to suck on the road. Like Stafford, there's times where then he'll play better on the road, but I do trust him a little bit better at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would like to point out that he's the fastest to 40K, and he came out of the University of Georgia. So, good job, Matt. Big House 2K also said thoughts on David Johnson going forward. Oh boy.
So I'll give you a crazy trade that I saw.
Oh, here we go.
In one of my leagues. I would have thought this was collusion if it hadn't been between the first place team and the second place team. I think the first place team, or I may have this reversed, but one of the two, the first place, I think, traded to the second place, David Johnson for Royce Freeman.
What?
And I'm going, what am I missing with this? And so I looked to see, like, is David Johnson out for the year? Or
right.
But no, they just made that trade.
Well, no, they did say Chase Edmonds is going to get a bigger share
but
of
that's
the load.
if he explodes this week, though.
No, they just said going forward, he's just going to get a bigger share of the load.
Yeah.
Why?
Maybe they're worried about Johnson getting hurt, taking too many of the snaps.
I feel better about, like, I only drafted David Johnson. Well, no, I drafted him in 2 leagues. I still have him in 1, but I traded him at the start of the year for what looked like, change for $1, but I traded him for Aaron Jones, Cooper Kupp, and Mark Ingram.
What?
So that was a good trade.
Are you serious?
That trade worked out very well for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, but like Jones was a 3rd round pick, Ingram was a 5th, and Kupp was like a 7th. So I was trading, a guy who was a 1st round pick for, most of the time those like 3-for-1 deals don't work out well for you. But I'm like, I think
that's highway robbery.
So, yeah, it went pretty well. So,
oh my goodness. I don't know. I still am wondering how Kupp fell to 7th round in most leagues. I'm still wondering that.
Because he's coming off injury.
He had looked better than he had ever done. He looked better than he ever had in training camp and in preseason.
Yeah, but look at him now. I mean, he's in a big group of wide receivers. He stood out at the beginning of the year.
Them.
He was. He's not necessarily anymore.
The Rams offense is a mess right now.
Exactly.
But that's not his fault, though. That's not on his part that he's just not doing well.
No, but
I don't know that anybody's really overtaken him that much. It's just the fact that that Goff is like throwing to the tight end more. They're just in a weird way. They're not really like running the ball more, but it just seems like he's not, taking as many shots the last couple of weeks. So yeah, Kupp's not gonna. I've thought about trying to. I did try to sell high on Kupp in a couple of leagues, but people weren't biting. So.
Stephen Drakes has got a question for us. Should he start? Thanks for tuning in, by the way. Should he start Edmonds or Corey Davis? Well, this one's easy for me, but y'all can go ahead first.
I would start Corey Davis. I think Edmonds has a tough matchup, and I don't know how much of the game he's going to play. I think Corey Davis could have a really big game here. He does well with, I want to say Fitzpatrick, but that's not it. Tannehill.
Oh yeah. That's a tough choice because he does have Chase Edmonds does have a tough matchup with New Orleans, 4th fewest points to fantasy running backs. But if David Johnson doesn't play at all, it's tough for me to go with a wide receiver, especially one who, even though he's playing
next to nothing.
Yeah, even though he's playing a bad defense, and Tannehill's a better option than Marcus Mariota, who could only get Corey Davis to have a big game like, twice a season. It's still tough for me to go with the wide receiver over the running back because the volume is going to be there, and Edmonds I think is good enough that he could still have a good day. So I'm gonna lean to Edmonds, but it's not a slam dunk.
It is a little bit interesting considering the fact that Davis's 2 games he's done well were against Atlanta, who have a horrible pass defense, and then the Chargers last week, who are currently just a mess all around. And so now, I mean, the potential that he blows up is high, but also I feel like he has, between Edmonds against the Saints, he has the highest ceiling, but also the lowest floor. Because I feel like Edmonds is just going to get probably like a consistent 10-ish, maybe. Because I don't know how big he'll blow up against New Orleans' pretty stout defense. But I mean, Corey Davis could do nothing, or he could do everything.
Edmonds might not even start, though. Edmonds might not. I mean, it could be like it's just weird situation.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was saying. Like it depends for me if David Johnson is in or out. If he's in, then I definitely would not risk.
It's just after last week, he might be quote unquote in, and then he's not in though.
Right. Yeah. They are liars. The Cardinals are liars.
Yeah.
Which is weird because up till now, I mean, all coaches lie, but up till now, he'd been pretty. Is it Hitchens had been pretty?
Kingsbury.
Kingsbury had been pretty straightforward about it.
Yeah, if his first year as an NFL head coach, he's probably. Sometimes when you get guys coming from college or something like that, like they think they're going to, do something revolutionary. Like I remember when Greg Schiano came to the Bucks, like he and Tom Coughlin chewed him out after the game because the game was over. The Giants were just taking kneel downs, and Schiano had told his players just try to bulldoze the offensive line and cause a fumble.
Make a fumble. Yeah.
And Tom Coughlin was no, we don't do this here in the NFL. If you're beaten, you're beaten. Just take it. You can get. I mean, these are multi-million-dollar athletes. $1 billion worth of business. You don't want to get a quarterback hurt, and so you get once in a while you get like a coach that comes from college and thinks, oh, I'm going to do something that nobody's thought of before. Like, well, people have probably thought of this before, but there's just this level of sort of unspoken rules, So.
Yeah. 710, thanks for tuning in and thanks for your patience with your question. He asked, do you guys like Kenny Stills this week? What do you think?
Absolutely. Smash that. That's definitely for Judah Buddha. That's a smash that Kenny Stills. I think he fits so perfectly into that Fuller slot. I think he's probably better than Fuller in some ways, and it's good. I think I project this out to be in my mind. I haven't done it on paper, but project this out to be a high scoring, like these are two teams that have really tough run defenses, and they're just going to pass at each other. Both of them have terrible pass defenses, so it's just going to be a boat race.
Yeah, but isn't there also the possibility that the Dolphins say we want Tua and just lose?
Dolphins.
Dolphins, yeah.
It's Texans Raiders, I think.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Sorry, Texans.
Yeah, Kenny Stills is on Texans now, Texans, so he's taking over for
that could be
Fuller.
That could be good.
I think the only downside to that is, I think it should be a shootout. Like neither one of these pass defenses has been good. I think the only thing that would give me pause there, I mean, it depends on what 7-10's other options are, but if Kenny Stills, like even if he's stepping in, he is stepping in, I guess, to that Will Fuller role. Will Fuller's had one big week, and the rest of it has been virtually nothing. So it's not like it's not like a year ago or so where the first of the year Will Fuller was getting a touchdown every week. If he's got to basically come in and do better than what Will Fuller did in terms of volume and production.
Yeah, see, I don't know, Judah, but I don't know if I entirely agree with saying this game is going to be like a shootout, like just a passing shootout, because I mean, especially I look at the Raiders and I see they've got they've got Darren Waller, they have Tyrell Williams and
Zay Jones,
Trevor Davis, and Zay Jones. Yeah,
and
technically sixth string, but
what's his name's coming back? I think. Who
did
you say?
Yeah, you're thinking of Tyrell coming back.
Tyrell's coming back.
Tyrell's coming. Okay, so they have a wide receiver and a half, maybe, and then they've got Darren Waller. But keep in mind, Josh Jacobs did well against the Bears defense, though. But if he does play, and even if Jalen Richard plays, like, it's hard for me to say, yeah, we're going to go see Kenny Stills and DeAndre Hopkins go ball it out with Darren Waller and Tyrell Williams.
I picked up Carr in a lot of leagues. I think Carr's going to have a huge game. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think Waller is going to get a lot of catches and probably a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, I hope so.
Wait, am I playing against you and you have Waller?
I don't know, maybe.
Anyways, I do. I think this is I don't think especially with Josh Jacobs, if he falls down on his shoulder, he's out. He's got that kind of injury, and I think he's not going to be balls to the wall this time. He's going to be a little reserved. He's probably going to be a little limited. Maybe not. He doesn't seem like the guy that would want to be limited. If so, he may not play. I just think it's going to be a shootout.
And by the way, 710 says along with Kenny Stills, he has Fitzgerald and Emmanuel Sanders too, but they're in his doghouse. That's understandable.
Yeah, Fitzgerald had like one catch last week.
Yeah. People were trying to trade me Larry Fitzgerald after the first few games, and I'm like, no, I've seen this movie before, and every time Fitzgerald has like 5 good weeks, and then it's nothing the rest of the season. He's got enough like old man energy for 6 weeks or so, and then it just dies. It just nosedives the rest of the season. So.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think especially the Emmanuel Sanders, he's just got to prove himself that he's the number one in San Francisco before you start him.
Yeah. I would go Stills in that situation because,
Claudio Jenkins, thanks for tuning in. Asks, should he start Juju, John Brown, Odell, Sutton, or DJ Chark in full PPR. So I guess go ahead and order those from 1 to 5.
This is another one. This is another one where I want to know, like, do you have one wide receiver slot that you can fit all of your guys into, or are you in a 4-team league, or what? How do you have? I mean, it's not really true. I've actually got leagues where I've got a bunch.
Yeah,
of guys.
Sutton and John Brown and Chark, he got off the waiver wire.
Yeah.
But to be able to choose, I think the funny part of the question is that you're just choosing. It sounds like one, or I guess maybe, or do we pick 3? I guess that's the
maybe just like go down and order them 1 to 5. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's order, because that's what I'm unclear about. Anybody want to go first, or I can? I don't mind. I can
go. Yeah, go.
Okay, so I like John Brown for the matchup. They're not going to be able to, for the same reason that I liked the Vikings against the Eagles a couple of weeks ago. The Vikings, even though Kirk Cousins hadn't been passing, up till that point, you can't run against the Eagles, but you can throw, and you're going to have to score a few points against them. So I like John Brown. Then it's probably Sutton for me, just because of consistency, and the Colts pass defense doesn't scare me. Then it's Juju, because even though he hasn't been consistent, they're playing the Dolphins. Chark, because even though he's kind of taken a backseat to Dede lately, it's the Jets, and I think he almost feels due for another one of those kind of blow up games, but you can't count on it. And then for me, it's OBJ last, because again, I don't trust anybody against Stephon Gilmore and the Patriots. So
he says pick 2, please, by the way.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So for me it's John Brown and Sutton. Yeah.
Interesting. Judah Buddha, what do you think? And don't you dare say Chark week, because that killed me last week.
I mean, it was a decent Chark week.
It was 7 points.
Chark week is
good for a waiver wire guy.
Chark week is just a state of mind. It's not. It's a life philosophy. It's not necessarily a play him every week. So it's a life philosophy, not a play him every week.
I thought he was going to have a bigger game. I think we all thought he was going to have a bigger game last week. But
so what do you think? Pick 2 out of these guys.
I don't know. This is tough. I do think OBJ is going to have a bigger game than everybody thinks. But would I be willing to put my money on him? Yeah, I'll take OBJ. Here's my question: is Juju? That's the one that I'm having a hard time with, because he has a great matchup.
Oh yeah,
he should explode this game.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't trust him. I can trust OBJ more than I can trust Juju at this point.
Whoa. You would trust OBJ with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Over
absolutely.
Juju against the worst defense in the league. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you take
that. Because here's the other thing is that, like, I've noticed this about teams of course, this is I've noticed this, that teams, like, they will get like a lot of points on Miami and then just kind of like take the foot off the gas. No, I think there is a history between the Steelers and the Finns. So I'm gonna go Juju and OBJ.
Whoa. You went like the complete opposite of Jared there. See, the thing is with me is that, like, I think Sutton is a really good choice, because, like, he's been producing well even when Emmanuel Sanders was there. Yeah, sure. Is he going to get picked up by whoever the number 1 is? Yeah, probably. But still, the potential to be really good is still there. Chark is gotten a touchdown in, I think, every game except 2. I think he's gotten 6 touchdowns in 7 games. The thing with John Brown is that he's just had tough matchups for most of the time he's been there, and then he had 1 bye week. But Odell's playing with Baker Mayfield against the Patriots. I don't trust that. I don't trust that at all. I mean, honestly, I think John Brown, Sutton, Chark, I think any of those you could probably start. I like Juju as a flex play so far for Miami. I mean, depending on who you have, obviously, for starting. But I'd probably go something like, I don't know, probably something like John Brown and Sutton maybe, or John Brown and Sutton probably, something like that, with Chark and Juju not close behind. Because I'm with you, Jared. I don't trust Odell with Baker Mayfield at all. Yeah, and Claudio says that he was thinking Juju and John Brown since it's close and they have the easiest matchups. Yeah, that'd
probably be the safest Safest way to go.
Yeah, definitely. He also asked, who are some wide receiver trade targets? What do you guys think? I think people aren't going to be trading for Hopkins anymore. No one's giving him up. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I think it depends on your situation. So if you're kind of getting close to the point where if you've got a team that's 6-1, or maybe this week if you're 5-2 or something like that, then you can kind of look toward playoff matchups and things like that. And so there's certain guys that may not be the best during the regular season the rest of the way, but they've got good playoff matchups to exploit. So like Kenny Golladay. Kenny Galladay's a guy that he's not really blowing up. He's had I don't think he's gone over he's gone over 100 yards in 2 games, but then he's also had 2 games where he's been at 21 or 17, and so he's been it's hard to say boom or bust because it's been a mix of everything. It's been like boom, bust, middle. But he's not really a guy that you can count on week to week. But for the playoffs, week 15, he's going to have Tampa Bay. So that's a pretty enticing matchup. So I think he's a guy that if it looks like you're going to get into your playoffs, if you feel pretty comfortable about that, then you start looking towards that, and you start looking for a guy that maybe you could get cheaper because he's not going to do that much in the regular season, but could have a big day when you need it. So that would be a guy. Just kind of looking through here to see, and I'm picking up in a lot of my leagues. I'm picking up the Giants wide receivers because people are just casting Sterling Shepard off onto the waiver wire or Golden Tate off to the waiver wire. And
Sterling Shepard might not play the rest of the year.
No.
The reason he's out right now, he's already cleared. Concussion protocol. They're just worried because he had 2 concussions directly, one after the other, and if he has another one, could die type thing.
Yeah. Well, but they're not at this point. They're not talking about like him sitting out. Like he's been doing. Like you said, I mean, he's already cleared the protocol, and they're making it sound like, he's not going to play this week, but, he's going to be back. And he's, so again, the Giants playoff matchups are the Dolphins and the Redskins. So I'm trying to pick up Tate and Shepard both so that if Shepard's out and Golden Tate's the number 1 guy, in the playoffs, he becomes like a pretty high level fantasy play against the Dolphins. So I think whoever's the number 1 receiver there, has a good shot at like 100 yards and a touchdown for you in the playoffs. So
that's for sure.
So if you can get both, that's kind of ideal to stash them. But.
Judah Buddha, what do you think? You got any wide receiver trade targets?
Yeah, TY, man. I just showed. Finally got a Jared trade in, and I can't remember who, a couple waiver wire guys in my estimation for TY, and I'm going out everywhere and trying to get him. I think he's got a really good schedule going forward, and I believe that the Colts are on a I think they're rising, and they're going to become better and better, and it could be a contender for the leader of their division. I mean, definitely.
Interesting. I mean, they shut down the Chiefs. I mean,
with Mahomes.
Yeah, with Mahomes. So I mean, I think the potential for the Colts is definitely way up there. What do you guys think about someone like Calvin Ridley, who, I mean, now Sanu's gone. Falcons basically have nothing to lose for the rest of the season almost, except like a third pick. So what do you guys think about him then? I mean, he's the deep threat, no Sanu. And that's a guy you could probably get lower too. You could probably get less stuff for him. Probably have to give up less.
I just don't know how much his volume is going to change. He was already even though I think technically Sanu may have been the number 2 wide receiver, like he was already getting, more volume than Sanu. I mean, Julio's still going to be the main guy. Austin Hooper, well, maybe Austin Hooper is actually the main guy, So, but I think Hooper and Julio are 1-2, and then Ridley's more of number 3. So I don't know that his volume changes significantly because Sanu had a couple of good weeks, but otherwise, I mean, over the past several games, his targets had been going down 5-4-2. He had 12 in week 4 against Buffalo, but that's kind of a situation where they were trying to do something different. So Ridley's been pretty consistent with like 6 targets has been pretty consistent for him, and he's had that in 4 out of 7 games. So I just don't know that I'm just now looking. He's on a waiver wire in one of my leagues. Someone actually dropped him.
Wait, Ridley or Sanu?
Ridley.
No.
What?
Somebody. Let's see. I'm sure I don't have a good waiver. Yeah, I've got a terrible waiver priority in here, but that's okay. I've got stud receivers in this league. So, someone dropped him. That's random, but.
Intriguing. So that looks like we got all the questions for now. Thank you everyone for all the great inquiries, I guess I should say. If you got any more, we're still going to be here for a little bit probably. So Jared, you haven't given us one of your stardom or sit-ems yet. What do you got this week?
I'm going to go with a couple of like lesser guys that there's I think a lot of times I just end up repeating guys that are going to be out there that everybody's telling you to play. So I'll try to go with a couple of guys that if you're more desperate, these might be good options. And so one of them
is the Desperation Station, brought to you by Jared.
Right. Yeah, that can be a segment, is Desperation Station. So one of them, if you are desperate, is Deontay Johnson, the second receiver for Pittsburgh. He's had 2 down weeks after having basically 50 plus yards and a touchdown in back-to-back weeks in weeks 3 and 4. Last week 5, he played Baltimore. Baltimore's, that's always a defensive game with the Steelers, and especially with Mason Rudolph being in there. And then in week 6, Mason Rudolph was out, and it was Duck Hodges throwing the ball against the Chargers. And then the Steelers had their bye in week 7. So it's been going on a month since Deontay Johnson has done anything. He's 12% owned. He's available in all of my leagues, but they've got the Dolphins this week. When Mason Rudolph took over, he was throwing more really to Johnson than he was to Juju. So I think he's in play as a guy to use if you're in a deeper league. Now, don't start him over someone like Calvin Ridley or Corey Davis or something like that. But if you're in a deeper league, I think he's a play there. And then my other one, if you're on a bye week at tight end or something like that, I know I have Mark Andrews with the Ravens, and so he's out in some of my leagues. Is the Titans tight end Jonnu Smith, because Delaney Walker is out with an injury, and they've been kind of not exactly splitting, but Jonnu Smith had been taking a little bit away from him. And so neither one of them were really that great of a play. But with him out, and they're playing Tampa, which has given up the second most fantasy points to tight ends. And again, we talked about Tannehill, how he's taken over for Mariota. And so last week, Jonnu Smith had his best game that he's had so far this season. I think he had
64 yards, I think.
Yeah, 64 yards. So again, if you've got a guy that's on a bye, like a Mark Andrews, then I think Jonnu Smith is a good streamer option.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I had never heard of him until you just mentioned it. I got to be completely honest.
Well, they thought he was gonna be a bigger deal. I think maybe it was last year. It was when Delaney missed the whole season, and so the Titans had always thrown the ball to the tight end a good bit, and so they thought, oh, okay, well, he might just step in and play that role, but he really didn't. But now with Delaney out and with them playing Tampa and with Tannehill in there, it's maybe a good combination for him to do something.
Interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Desperation Station, brought to you by Jared, not the wedding ring company. Just Jared. That guy.
That's right.
I mean, but those are good plays, especially like DFS. Those are guys to consider. Another one would be Fells. I think the tight end for the Houston Texans. Yeah. They're going a lot more with. I mean, we've talked about it before with the double tight end set and passing to their tight ends, using those big bodies to kind of shore up their offensive line. And Fells has been getting a lot of catches and a couple touchdowns too.
Yeah.
Somebody I would put in now.
Well, he hasn't gotten that many catches. I mean, he had one game with 7 targets and one game with 6 targets. Everything else was 2 and under. So he's not exactly like the prime target. It seems more situational, honestly. It's more game script than it is, oh, he's definitely the tight end or whatever.
No, but he is the tight end for the team.
But not necessarily like he's a major factor in the offense consistently. He might be one of the guys that's like subject to, well, wide receivers aren't getting stuff done. Let's go to him.
Yeah, I think he'd be a good play. I mean, especially since they're playing Oakland, which is like third against the tight end. He could be a good play this week. A good possibility for someone to catch. He's a touchdown guy. Like since last year, I remember so many times like Fells is getting a touch. Who's Fells?
Yep.
He falls into the end zone.
Wasn't he with Carolina before?
I don't remember.
Something like that. I don't know.
Let's see, because I think he would pop up once in a while when Greg Olsen would be out, and he would do something.
You're right. I think you're right.
But I got to look and see, because I remembered him from before. He was with, let's see. No, it was Arizona. That's who he was with. So his best year was with Arizona in 2015 when he had
that's a while back.
300 yards and 3 touchdowns. But that's who it was, Arizona. Yeah.
So that brings up a question, because that was Arians. Brait with OJ Howard out.
Oh boy.
Would Brait be somebody that you'd want to, the Fells of yesteryear today? Cameron Brait.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 of the last 3 weeks, he's had between 36 to 47 yards and a touch. I mean, it's all touchdown dependent,
But
So,
I mean, that's for every tight end.
not every tight end, but yeah, I get your point. I mean, Tennessee's given up the 9th most to fantasy tight ends. Actually, now that you mention that, I think I might actually like him better than Jonnu Smith as a streamer, just because they like to throw to him for touchdowns. So
in DraftKings, I think he's like $200 less than Jonnu or something like that.
Nice.
I don't know. They're right in the same area,
Yeah.
Like one's above the other, so I don't know.
Jonnu's like 2,800.
Is he 20? Okay, well,
so
he's about 3,000, I think.
All right, we got a couple more questions in the comments. 710 is back. Do you start Nick Chubb from the University of Georgia this week? He doesn't love the matchup, but he's because he's playing the Patriots. But he also has Lat Murray and Josh Jacobs. I think you mentioned something about Chubb earlier this week. Do you think he could have a big game? So what do you think?
Oh, yeah. I think he's going to have – I mean, even if he doesn't have a big game, like my hot take is he's going to have a big game. But I think just by the numbers, he's going to have a decent game. And, I mean, compared to – I just worry about Jacobs. Jacobs could have a big game. But, I mean, he falls down on his shoulder, and he might even have a limited game. I don't know. They love Washington and who's that other running pass catching running back that'll come in. They don't come in a lot.
Jalen Richard.
Jalen Richard. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's something. I'm sure if you like Josh Jacobs, you're gonna want to hit that Josh Jacobs up. But I love me some Chubb.
I don't know, Jared. What do you think?
Yeah, I can't. I gotta go Josh Jacobs. I don't like any running backs against the Patriots defense in Foxborough, especially. The shoulder thing it is scary because, I mean, Jude is right. He could get a early game, injury a little bit more and have to come out. You could get virtually nothing from him. So it is a risk. But for me, I would say it's one that I would still take.
I think the interesting thing with the Patriots, because I was looking at this and I hear a lot of times, the Patriots defense is great or whatever. And then against running backs, and then I'm like, yeah, they shut down Le'Veon Bell twice, definitely. But then on the other hand, they haven't really faced anyone worth, running against, because the Steelers were a mess for the first few weeks. The Dolphins don't have a run game. Frank Gore is the only running back to bust open 100 yards, father time on the Patriots. And then the Giants' third string running back, and the Redskins don't have a run defense.
Well, but here's what happens is here's why the Patriots are always good against running backs it's not that they necessarily stop you from getting at least some yards, although they do kind of, try to plug the run and make people throw the ball to someone other than their top receiver. But they especially with goal line stuff, they very much try to plug it up and make people throw, which is why we got the famous moment of the Seahawks not running the ball with Marshawn Lynch, but instead dropping back and trying to throw a pass that got a slant that got intercepted. Yeah. So that's especially what they try to do is like down on the goal line. It's like, all right, if you can, throw it in and beat us, fine, we'll let you. But they really try to plug up that goal line. And so that's part of the reason that I shy away from running backs against them.
Chubb has had his best games against the other best defenses. Baltimore. Well, against the run. The top 10. Baltimore, Seattle. Now, if you're right, if it is a San Francisco game, which I think that was an anomaly. Watching that game, it was a crazy game. But if you think it's going to be like SF, like he still had 9-10 points, depending on, the format.
Right.
What's it called? Claudio Jenkins did say that Bell averaged 4.6 yards a carry. That's a fair point. Anything Gore can do, he thinks Chubb can do it. Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, Gore is never going. Gore will never die. But this is a good point. You guys kind of like skipped over Murray against. He's not playing great defense. Kamara is questionable. He's hobbled. Is he just not a play here?
Oh, he definitely play for me. But I'm just
okay.
I'm just assuming that Kamara is going to play. Unless they say otherwise. Because I think let's see. The latest was, I guess he's going to be a game time.
Not again.
Game time decision. So yeah, it depends. If Kamara's out, yeah, I would be inclined to probably play Murray
over both. Over both.
Yeah, because of Jacob's injury, and because of again, I don't know if Chubb's going to be able to get his normal routine there. So if Kamara is completely out, I would probably go with Murray because he's not injured and he's not playing the Patriots in Foxborough.
Interesting. Oh boy, Samuel Wilson. We'll get to your question in 1 second. Claudio Jenkins asked, "Would you trade Waller for Kittle straight up?"
No. I like Waller a lot, but no, Kittle's just a better player, and he's on a better team, way better team.
Oh, but I think this guy has
Waller.
Waller.
Yeah.
Would you get
Waller
Kittle
for Kittle?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Uh,
What about you, Jared? You're not a Kittle guy. You don't like Kittle.
I do like Kittle. I like his playoff matchup, especially against the Falcons. But it's tough because he's like I think oddly enough, like Waller is more integral to that Raiders offense than Kittle is. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think if you're in good shape in your league and you're going to make the playoffs, I would be willing to do that just because, I mean, Kittle plays the Falcons in the playoffs, and the Falcons have always just been destroyed by tight ends. And it's not, I don't think they're particularly bad against them this year, like not like someone like Arizona or Seattle or something, but the Falcons are just never that good against tight ends. And so I would be willing to do that because I think you could maybe, have a blow up game and help you win or advance to the championship. But if you need a guy to just help get you there, like, man, I don't know. Waller, he's just a solid, consistent guy. So I don't know if I would do that. Actually.
Yeah. See, the thing with Waller and the thing with Kittle's scored under 10 points 3 times. Waller's only scored under 10 points once the entire year. I mean, I think that might be
past success is not an indication of future success.
But still, at the same token, though, I mean, let's just say, for example, hypothetical situation, Emmanuel Sanders becomes a huge part of San Francisco's offense. Does that end up eating into Kittle's targets?
Actually, the more I think about it, I think Manny might really help. I think the problem has been for Kittle is that he's had all the coverage. They're just shutting him down in order, and if Manny comes in and steals some of that coverage, that could really open things up for Kittle in the middle, especially.
So you'd do this trade right now, Waller for Kittle, if you got Kittle.
Yeah. I
Jared,
love Kittle.
Would you do it?
Depends on the circumstances. If you're 6-1, if you're maybe 5-2, yeah, probably. If not, if you need a guy to help you get to the playoffs, it's hard to argue with. I mean, Waller's not going away. Basically, I think you're almost hoping that Kittle turns back into what Waller is doing right now. So, yeah, I don't think I necessarily would do that.
Yeah, Samuel Wilson, I agree with you. The Waller's
in 2 games, yeah, he's had 2 games of 125 plus.
My goodness.
That's like Kittle's year last year where he was having those blow-up games.
Yeah. It's called 710 says he was his best draft pick this year as his tight end number 2 late in the draft.
That's funny because nobody knew who he was. Nobody drafted him. No, a few people ever drafted him. So he must listen to CBS Sports. I wonder if he listens to Eye on Fantasy.
Intriguing. And Samuel Wilson Hard Knocks is a sports TV show. Just to let you know, it's an NFL show that teams like the Raiders and the Browns want to pick up so they can, get more views because their teams aren't that good. Samuel Wilson, thanks for waiting for your question. He says, if Josh Jacobs had no injury, would you take him over Chubb? And Chubb may split the backfield. What do you think? Judah Buddha, you have strong opinions on both Jacobs.
Chubb's not gonna split the. I mean, you're talking about the rest of the season. He might have a problem with that, but he's not gonna split the backfield this week. Yeah. I'd still go Chubb, of course. I mean, it's like, would you pick a Lamborghini over? A nice
BMW.
A nice BMW. Yeah, I'd take the Lamborghini.
But what if the nice BMW is driving on the road and the Lamborghini has to drive through sand?
Still take the Lamborghini.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the issue of, like, when you think about the defense against them, is what's the surface that the car is driving on then? It might get stuck down in the beach on the sand.
It's a difference of philosophy. I will usually pick the analogy, like the reason I bring the analogy is, like, I will usually go with skill and talent over situation. Like defenses, like, I take that into account. It's important to me, but it's not going to sway me away from, like, somebody who I think is a Lamborghini, somebody who's, like, really good. He's like an elite player.
Well, Samuel Wilson does bring up that Jacobs is pretty nasty and Odell is not there to steal touchdowns because, I mean,
Jacobs is good. He's a rookie, though. He's an injured rookie.
Yeah, but rookie running backs are, I mean, Ricky, run it. Here's the ball. Run with it. You know.
Yeah,
so,
I know. Do you think he's as good as Chubb?
Man, I don't know. He's pretty good.
He is pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have to. I haven't really sat down and like analyzed a ton of film on him.
Tape. Yeah, neither have I. But I just think he's a step above.
Yeah,
Jacobs. Jacobs is good. I mean, I'd love to have Jacobs on my team. I barely have any of them.
Yeah, well, and he also says Josh Jacobs has a sick schedule.
He does. Yeah, rest of season, like Chubb has some tough matchups. It's not brutal, but yeah, New England this week is not a great start. Although if he does do well against New England, then you don't really fear anybody else that he plays against. To me,
710 says that he thinks that Jacobs going to be okay this week, except for the fact he has a shoulder problem. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be interesting. You know, it's kind of funny. It reminds me whenever someone talks about Chubb, I keep thinking I was watching Gridiron Heights a little bit back, and it's just the Browns are in a complete panic, and everyone's going crazy. And then Chubb's just sitting in the back quietly, and he's like, maybe I'm the star of the team. which is a good point. I mean, the Browns are a mess. Chubb is the only consistent thing keeping that team going.
Well, that is funny when you say it, or when you point it out, because like what's all the talk about OBJ? What's all the talk about Baker Mayfield, what's all the talk about, or to a lesser extent, like Freddie Kitchens as first year head coach, and then you've got Nick Chubb, being one of the best running backs in the league, but that's a lot of what sports has turned into is drama, and I'm glad that actually I don't know how familiar you guys are with The Athletic. But
Jake Seeley, Chris Meany,
but even just their beat coverage is really the best because they go back to kind of that old style of, hey, anyone who's actually interested in the sports side of it and not the drama side of it, here's content for you. And I mean, most of the other outlets, especially like ESPN, TMZ. It's just like there was one time where even like Yahoo's headlines, they were like half a dozen Yahoo Sports, headlines that are over in the little, not exactly a ticker, but it's in that like top headline box to the right. And every one of them were about some sort of off-field drama, And I'm sitting there thinking like, why do I even check these sites anymore? So I'm glad The Athletic has come along for stuff like that. But basically, yeah, like Nick Chubb is like the football player version of The Athletic, where he's about actually doing things on the field and not the drama.
Yeah, 710 brings up a good point. He says Jacobs is not as good as Chubb because Chubb, from the University of Georgia, is amazing. Fantasy football could be a different story with Hunt and schedules.
Yeah,
that's completely fair.
Could be. Don't think it will be.
Claudia Jenkins. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I just said, I agree with you. I'm not that worried about Hunt right now.
Yeah, especially since, Chubb, he's had some tougher matchups, but he still put up good numbers.
If he puts up great numbers tomorrow,
against New England,
Hunt is not going to do much.
Claudia Jenkins asked, would you trade Odell for Hilton? He's 5-2, and he's pretty confident he's making the playoffs, so he's not quite sure what to do. What do you guys think?
That's a tough one. If you really needed someone to give you more of a push, I would say Hilton for sure. Because OBJ is just like, he has a rough schedule. Like for run defenses, the Browns schedule is not terrible. But man, OBJ is going to go up against a lot of good cornerbacks. I would still, though, I think be inclined to do that, because even in the playoffs, unless the Cardinals trade him, the Cardinals are going to have Patrick Peterson when they go up against them, and then he'll have to go up against the Ravens in Week 16. So really, OBJ's he's got two soft matchups with Miami and Cincinnati the rest of the way. Everything else, New England, Stephon Gilmore, Denver, like we said, the top three secondary. Pittsburgh has turned into a good secondary, and then Arizona's got Patrick Peterson. So yeah, I have gotten rid of OBJ. I had him in 4 leagues. I've traded him in 3.
Judah Buddha, what do you think?
I'm a big fan of Ty. So this makes, I mean, I think it's a wash. They're the same player to me as far as I think they'll have about the same production.
I disagree. I disagree completely. I think Hilton's going to be better than Odell because, look, the Browns are a complete mess, and I'm going to say that.
They were a mess last week, doesn't it? They started to look a lot better last week.
No.
Baker Mayfield's his great leadership skills are going to rise to the top, and he's going to rein that team in. Is a thing that will not happen.
Exactly. Thank you. I don't see it happening. I don't see this happening.
This is the NFL, man. Anything can happen.
No, but here's the thing. Like, even if we're talking about this, Claudia says Odell has a decent playoff matchups. Yeah, but Hilton, granted, he gets Lattimore in week 15, but in week 16 he gets Carolina, who's giving up 6 most.
Carolina's a good defense, though. They're getting better.
Yeah, but they are good, but not that good against the pass. Like, think about like after all the, in spite of all the Jameis Winston turnovers, think about like all the balls that Godwin and Evans both caught against them. So,
yeah, Samuel brings up 2 good points. He says he'd go Odell because he doesn't have injuries right now to our knowledge. True. He also said Hilton's only same level talent on the team as running back, and there's no Jarvis Landry.
Has Jarvis been stealing a lot of? No.
He had that one huge 125 game.
To me, that's a crutch argument. It could go either way. If you're the only show in town, you get shut down, but you could say, or you could say you're the only show in town, you get all the passes. Could go either way.
So would you do this trade, Odell for Hilton? What do you guys think?
I would. Yeah.
Yeah. And Claudia says Hilton's ADOP has significantly decreased from usual. Plus, he's averaging like 60 yards and is touchdown dependent.
He is. And if you look at the touchdown regression, he probably has a little negative regression coming his way.
Yeah, that is the scary thing with Hilton. Although they've changed that off, it's weird because they've made him into a different receiver, really. He was all big play before, and they've changed the offense. They've gotten away from the big play. It's short, quick throws. And so even though he doesn't have these blow up like 170-yard games, he ends up, he's like, all of a sudden, he's like a red zone threat, which is really weird. So I don't know, but I just, OBJ, he had one big catch against the Jets that got him to 161 yards and a touchdown. He caught, 101 yards last week, but that his one touchdown has been off of that like 90-yard play against the Jets. 2 catches here and there. So I just don't, unless something drastically changes with the Browns, I just don't really trust, that he's going to all of a sudden break out and be the OBJ that we've seen. So
yeah. I think 710 says he's been an Odell fan, never a Hilton fan. Easy OBJ. I don't doubt Odell. I doubt the Browns.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah, the Patriots should have traded for Odell is what should have happened. Like instead of the Browns getting him, but the Patriots, they didn't do it, and then they've been trying to make up for that mistake ever since. They brought in Antonio Brown. Now they've traded for Sanu. They should have just traded for Odell.
So you're a Falcons guy. Is Sanu? I guess we've talked about this, but is Sanu going to help them that much?
I don't know what they intend to do with him or how they intend to use him. I
think they're going to use him as like interchangeable with Edelman, like a big slot guy.
Yeah, I've just got to believe that they've got a specific plan for how they intend to use him, that they see something like in his skill set that they can really do a certain way. Because I think just like as in terms of just like pure athleticism and everything, he's not a guy that's, just going to burn you deep. He's not a guy that's going to win 50-50 balls. I think he's a smart receiver. And he had, I mean, the reason that the Falcons signed him to a big contract in the first place was he ended up, kind of finally getting a chance in Cincinnati. And, he ended up, if I can find so his, where is his, there it is. Okay. So, his stats in Cincinnati, never really stood out all that much. I mean, his career high was 2018 with the Falcons. He had 838 yards and 4 touchdowns. And, he had like 67, 66 receptions back to back. So, I mean, he's just not, he's not really that special athletically. So I've got to think that the Patriots have some specific, plan for him, and I don't know exactly what that is. So.
It's weird too because the Falcons spent a lot for him too, and he came from where did he come from?
Cincinnati.
Oh yeah, sorry, you just said that. So it's like coaches love this guy.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He's one of the most solid wide receiver twos you will ever see. Like he's not exactly a star, but he's good. Like he doesn't drop passes. He's a decent route runner. Yeah, he's not bad. He's good. I mean, we've seen the Patriots take players who are okay or fine before and then turn them into superstars. So I don't know. It could be really well. Claudio Jenkins does bring a good point. Sanu has a huge arm. Yeah, he can throw 70 yards.
Yeah,
that's more than half of the NFL. That's a really good, really solid time. Wilson says the Pats with Odell would be nasty. Yeah, that's a pretty good point. Completely going back to the trade though, the trade that he says, I think Samuel Wilson says it really well that Odell and Hilton can both fall off. Hilton is more riskier, but has more constant upside.
What does that mean? How can it be riskier with a constant upside?
Like he'll
not risky at all.
He'll always have a higher ceiling, but he'll have a lower floor probably than Odell. He's riskier, but he'll have a constant potential to do well.
So lower floor. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I think it's really good.
Probably not consistent upside, but like higher upside.
Yeah. Claudio also says that he wishes AB should get on the team because his wide receivers are completely underperforming. But he's got Saquon and Jake.
I could never trust AB. Like I saw an article the other day about like, teams are thinking about bringing him back. Like I don't know that they can because with the NFL investigation, I think if they brought him back, Goodell might immediately just be like, no, sorry, he's on the exempt list.
Yep.
It's just so hard for me to imagine him actually playing. And if he did, like, how could you ever, you maybe if you get him off the waiver wire and you've got a bench spot that, nobody even halfway decent that is even worth hanging on a roster. Otherwise, like, man, I just don't know if I could go back to that drama,
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. That's a lot. Samuel Wilson says he likes Saquon for the playoffs, but injury risks and touchdowns are questionable. What do you guys think?
Yeah, again, Dolphins and Redskins in the playoffs. I mean, that's hard to beat. I've tried to trade for Saquon, and people don't want to give him up, but I've tried to trade for him on teams that are basically out of the playoff race.
I know. Why won't they do it?
Because they just like that, and I'm offering them stuff that it would make their team so much better because, they have a garbage team overall, and they just won't do it. It's just like, I like Saquon, I'm going to keep him. Like, okay, well, thanks for wasting your money,
I guess it's one of those times it's like at the end of the year, they're just like not doing well. And then you say, well, at least I still had Saquon.
I think it kind of is that. Yeah. They just like a lot of times, I mean, people play fantasy football for, different reasons and different mentalities. And some guys are like, this is my guy. I want to ride with him, and like, I mean, these players, I mean, for me, they are all stats at the end of the day. Like I will develop an affinity for a guy who helps me win a championship or who does something memorable or something like that. But like I can trade them with a clear conscience because the real people do not know that I'm trading them. They do not know that they're playing for my team. They don't care about me or my team. And so ultimately it's like, what can give you the best chance to win? And so I loved Chris Carson. Carson at the start of the year. I got him on, I think 8 or 9 of my 17 teams. because I thought like the value at the 5th round was just too much to pass up. And he has, like, he started slow, but then he's been really good since then. But now I'm trying to trade him because his schedule gets pretty tough. And I have no qualms about that. Like, I love Chris Carson. Thanks for helping me out. But in most leagues, I see some other guys that I think will be better for me the rest of the way. But there are guys who are just like, that's my player. We're in this together.
Problem.
And So not much you can do about that.
Yeah, I kind of have a little bit of that problem with Travis Kelce because in literally all of my leagues, if we sometimes we'll do a live chat and call each other during the draft, and I'll take Travis Kelce because A, I love him, and B, everyone else wants him. So I'll do it to be stingy, and everyone yells at me. It's so much fun. Then I'm like, well, now I got to keep him.
Yeah.
Samuel Wilson says, let's see, he's worried about keeping Zeke. He can sell him right now for Henry and OBJ. What do you guys think?
No, not for me. I love Henry, but I wouldn't trade Zeke for him. And I mean, again, to me, I just don't trust OBJ enough. I mean, again, like, people are thinking like OBJ, he's great. He's going to develop back into what he was. But like Julio Jones had that year where he just he was like wide receiver 30 something.
Yeah, I remember that year.
He could never get touchdowns, and that was an especially weird situation because he was with the team that he had been with forever, that he had been doing pretty well with. I mean, he would basically have like no fewer than 6 touchdowns. He wasn't like a double-digit touchdown guy, but he was going to get you close to 90 receptions or more, and he was going to get like 1,400 to 1,800 yards. And then all of a sudden, like, he just became touchdown allergic, in 2017, and went, like, I'm trying to think like what the stretch of games was that he went without. I'm trying to look it up while we're talking here, but the stretch of games that he went without touchdown, it extended into, like the next season. And so, so in 2017, he had 2 regular season games where he caught a touchdown. He had 3 for the year. And so, and again, that was with a good quarterback, with the offense he had been in. And with OBJ, he's in a situation he hasn't been in before. The Browns' offensive line's terrible. Baker Mayfield is not being accurate, and they've got a tough schedule. And so I think people are thinking, oh, it's OBJ. There's going to be progression or positive regression or whichever you want to call it.
Stop saying that, please, please.
But he's going to get back to what he was. He may not all year. He may have a whole season long thing that's worse than what Julio had in 2017. So I just don't necessarily think that there's a big windfall or just a course correction for OBJ coming.
I think there is a course correction. I think it's a little different than the it could be than the Julio situation. I mean, it could be. But I think his difficulties right now are situational, and situation can change so fast. The problem with Julio, well, one was injury, and that could happen to OBJ easily. 2, I don't know, is weird. Whereas there's something you can point to with OBJ, and that is the situation of their team not working together, not doing well. The game planning and the game calling, the play calling. I think that stuff can get better. And I actually have more trust in Hitchens than a lot of people think. Hitchens is a complete moron. I think he's actually just working things out. It could be that you're just working things out. It's the first time they've played with each other. And they could get better and better and better as the season goes on. Now, like you said, he might just be total, yuckiness, the rest of the garbage, the rest of the way. But I see a scenario where they keep getting better, and starting this week, they just, imagine they do beat the Patriots and they get their stuff together. You could see OBJ just exploding these next. Remember, we still have 7 games left, or I guess 6 games left in the season. 7 games left.
7 for the regular season.
Right, 7 for the regular season. That's a lot of games.
2 for playoffs, yeah. Well, and I'd say 7 for fantasy regular season.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's just a different view of, and I think you're totally right. Like it could totally go sour for him the rest of the season. I just don't think so. I think the way I've seen things go in the NFL, they get better. And they might just continue to be terrible the rest of the way. I think they have the makings to be an excellent team. And excellent teams beat excellent defenses.
Okay, here's a funny thing. I said this I think 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was the year that the Browns drafted David Njoku and got like that whole haul in the first round or whatever. And my bold prediction as a joke was the Browns will be good in 5 years. That was my joke. I was like, yeah, they'll be good, but not now. And here's Zeke. Yeah, he's got some harder playoff matchups, but he's been playing decent against decent defenses too. I mean, his one bad week was against the Saints where he still got 10. And then against Philadelphia, who has supposedly a good run defense, he put up 25. So I like Zeke a lot. Henry could do good or the Titans could fall off. And I've said before, time and again, that I don't trust the Browns at all. So I would keep Zeke.
I forgot we were talking about a trade.
Zeke for Henry and OBJ.
Yeah, I think Henry's terrible. And I think he can't get off. Like he's good like home run player, but he has a real terrible time getting off. Like he's slow as molasses. But once he gets going, he's super fast. It's a weird dynamic.
Yeah. Just a quick news thing is Falcons quarterback Danny Etling, who I've never heard of, has been promoted from the practice squad for Sunday's game against Seattle, a sign that Matt Ryan will probably not start.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I mean that's not for sure, but that's a good sign.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely stick with Zeke, and Jared knows I've had my frustrations with Zeke, and even talked about trading him, but at the end of the day, you'd rather have Zeke on your bench. He's consistent.
Yeah. What's it called? Samuel Wilson.
We got to wrap things up soon, though.
Yeah. We'll get this up soon. Samuel Wilson asked, "Do you think the team rests with Baker Mayfield?"
I mean, partially, but that's not all of their problem. I mean, it's part of it is just offensive line. Mm-hmm. And that's why, I don't know. Maybe they get to playing together better. I mean, I guess that, that's possible for an offensive line, but they just don't seem to, they're just not good. And they have been not good to a point where it's going to take like a significant correction for them to really play, for the offense to really hum better. When there are just multiple things going wrong, with some teams, it's like, well, you've got to fix this one thing and then, okay, it's fine. I just feel like with the Browns offensive line and the play calling and Baker Mayfield's struggles with accuracy, which he had always been good at before, like the more things you're banking on that you've like, well, I need this to go right and I need this to change and I need this to change. It just becomes less likely that it's all going to come together in a cohesive form. So I don't think it's just all on Baker, but I mean, it's, that's a significant part of it, but not all of it.
Does he mean do they stick with him though?
Yeah. No, I think it's just does the team sit on Mayfield? I think
I don't know what that means.
I think he means is choice. Do their chances. Yeah. The way I'm interpreting it is that does their chances for the rest of the season depend on him most of all or more than anything, or solely or something?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Maybe.
Like I said earlier, Chubb's the star. I think they know it too.
I see a scenario where if Mayfield starts looking more to dump it off to Chubb, they could really turn around. Like if he gets spooked. You joked about the ghost, but he does get spooked and it hurts the line when he just starts. The line doesn't know what he's gonna do, and so they don't know what to do. If he just trusts the line more, has the easy dump off to Chubb, they could turn this team around real fast.
But he wants to make the big play.
I know.
So I know. Is he? I mean, to me, he's so hard-headed on stuff. Like, it's hard for me to imagine them talking him out of we just need you to make the safe plays here.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have one more question to finish us off from Claudio Jenkins. Sorry, it took us a minute to get to it. Who are the top 8 to 10 wide receivers ROS? What do you guys think?
Wow.
Receivers. I don't even know their names. As you guys know. Are we talking PPR or standard? Should we just go with PPR?
Just go like in general, probably.
I mean, what we play is like half point is standard in Yahoo.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
Who are yours? I'll go with. Go ahead.
So Michael Thomas. I don't see any reason to take him out of the top. Chris
Number
Godwin.
one.
He also said full PPR.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't play any full PPR leagues. I play all like Yahoo standard half points. So I don't think the difference is going to be that significant.
Not that much difference. No.
Some of these guys that are at the top, I'm gonna stick with them. So like Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
As long as they're healthy, I don't see any significant reason to change them. Hopkins,
Yeah.
I like him to bounce back a little bit more and catch up on some of his numbers for the season. Then it starts getting a little more difficult.
Tyreek Hill. I think you got to put Tyreek Hill in there.
Tyreek Hill, but part of it a little bit to me depends on Mahomes. I'll put him in there. I'll say Tyreek Hill, but
I think Mahomes will be back soon.
I'll put a qualifier in to say that if for some reason Mahomes doesn't come back, then maybe that changes.
Here's a question: Cooper Kupp. Do you put Cooper Kupp in there?
I think he's fringe top 10. Yeah. I knew like the target share he was getting for a few games was just unsustainable. I mean, he had in back-to-back weeks, he had 15 and 17 targets, which is just insane. So I think he's fringe top 10, but if I could trade him for pretty much any one of those other guys that I mentioned, I would do that in a heartbeat. I know Judah's not the biggest on Julio, but
I put him in top 10. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if you put him in the top 10 or not. So I'll put Julio in there. So I think.
What about Galladay? I put Galladay in top 10.
I don't know if he's going to produce. I like him because of his playoff matchups. I don't know if he's going to produce. I don't think he's going to produce top 10 numbers the rest of the way because he's still got, that NFC North. He's got some tough matchups there. Chicago again. He's got Chicago twice, and he's at Minnesota. So I think those are going to limit him a little bit. Mike Evans, I'll put him back up in there too.
We got one more. Would you go Tyler Lockett or would you go Hilton?
Lockett.
Yeah.
Lock it in. Me too.
Lockett and Rocket.
Lock it in. What about Devontae Adams though, if he gets healthy?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. Yeah.
That was Sammy Wilson, by the way, not me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I would.
I mean, if he's completely healthy, I don't know, man. Yeah, if he's completely healthy rest of the season, he's definitely got to be in the top 10. Who would you knock out?
For me, I think the
Evans?
easy one to knock out. No. I put Evans up there in mine.
No, if you got to put Adams in, who would you knock out?
Oh, I don't think we got to. I think
we had 10. No, I thought we had 10. Julio, Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyreek Hill, Tyler Lockett, Cooper Kupp. Did you say Julian Edelman?
No, I said Amari.
Oh, Amari Cooper. I would put Julian Edelman, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans. That's 10.
Yeah, I would go. You didn't include Devontae in that one, did you?
No.
I would put Devontae in over Julian Edelman because Edelman.
Really?
Yeah, just because like he's got such a safe floor, but he's not really producing a lot in terms of, he's got 2 touchdowns. So, he's and with adding Sanu in, I don't know how that changes things. I mean, Devontae is just the unquestioned number one in Green Bay, one of the top receivers in the league. I would have to go with Devontae.
He doesn't have very much competition either. I mean, this has been
no. We've seen that
circus.
We've gotten to see what the rest of the Packers receiving core looks like without him, and there is no one who's going to be challenging him for that number one receiver status.
You're right. Unless this turf toe man I just remember the days of
Yeah.
AJ Green, man. Every week they said he's coming back this week. He's coming back, and then he'd come back, and then he would not be so great because his toe's not so great.
Yeah. You don't really realize like how much you use your toe for balance, but I think I've
To
heard
jump.
yeah.
Like you can't jump without your big toe. It's
Well,
his
I mean,
big toe.
even just for balance, like
Yeah,
even
that's
just to
true.
walk, because I think I've read stuff about like, you know, people like who lose, you know, they've had an injury and lost their big toe or something. And even like, you know, it's really kind of like, it's almost like taking a leg, like one of the four legs out of a table or something, you know, you all of a sudden, you know, it's right. It's like supporting that corner. And so it's really kind of hard to balance on it. So yeah, toes are a big deal. It's not a wussy injury.
So you guys don't think anyone like Sutton?
Close. He's close for
He's
me.
close.
11, 12.
Yeah, I love the consistency, but you know, just some
Terrible
stuff.
team.
Terrible team. We don't know if Drew Lock's going to take over for Joe Flacco. We don't know how that would affect Sutton. So,
What about Scary Terry? He's got golden matchups against Philly and the Giants in the playoffs.
Love him for the playoffs, but till then, he's got some tough matchups.
Oh, good question about AJ. Where would you put AJ Green if he comes back?
Hey, boy. For the rest of the season, what do you think?
The way that Bengals offense is playing, and the fact that they have the Patriots in the fantasy opener, so he would get Gilmore. Now we're to a point where he's only going to have like, you know, maybe 4 or 5 games in the fantasy season.
Is he droppable? I really want to drop him. Tell me he's droppable.
And not at least not through the trade deadline, because you got to at least wait to see if somehow he gets traded or something. Like after that, if he comes back and he doesn't do anything, like I think he would be like people are dropping Mixon. People are finally dropping Mixon in my leagues.
Well, he's definitely droppable.
But AJ, like he's one of those like Tyler Boyd. Like I dropped Tyler Boyd in a league because I just ran out of space on my bench and had other options. And he's having a couple of blow up weeks, but then he may have 3 points another week. So Cincinnati is so bad, you know.
Yeah. Even though they do, I mean, he does get 2 solid matchups. He gets Oakland, but for the fantasy championship, if he's back, he gets Miami.
Right. That is a good thing. Like if you can afford to keep him, and that's why I was trying to pick up Mixon in a couple of leagues. It's like, well, if he comes back and I get to the championship, or even if I'm just third place game, it's Mixon or it's Miami. Yeah.
So you think Mixon's droppable?
Yeah.
At this point.
I mean, again, if you're going to make the playoffs, like, I mean, you might could start him against Miami if you don't have a great other flex play. Like, just about anybody could start against Miami.
Is there any scenario? I mean, I know anything can happen in the NFL. I'm a big proponent of that, but is there any scenario where the Dolphins like get better on defense?
They turn it around. No.
I don't think they get better on defense. There's a scenario where I could use, if I was desperate, like a couple of those receivers.
For sure use the receiver.
Like they play again. The flip side of that Giants-Dolphins matchup in Week 15 is the Dolphins receivers get the Giants. So I could see a scenario where I might be desperate enough to throw Devontae Parker in there as a wide receiver 2 or flex if there were injuries.
Yeah. And last question of the day: would you guys trade Golladay for Fournette?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want Fournette so bad.
Yeah. He's another one. Like his schedule is not quite Le'Veon Bell's for the rest of the season. Like Le'Veon Bell, I think has like the best possible one.
But he's fat Le'Veon Bell, man. He's getting like just as many like snaps and targets as Le'Veon Bell. He just hasn't done as much with it. Well, actually, Le'Veon hasn't either. But he's not getting the touchdowns right now. He's due.
Yeah, but
positive regression coming his way.
Positive regression is not a good thing for.
Oh, yeah, it is.
No, it isn't. It means going towards the average. The average for
his average is I'm talking but like for touchdowns, he needs some positive regression for touchdowns. He has 1 touchdown, and he's had like 10 red zone targets or runs. So he should have more. The average would be like at least 5 touchdowns by now.
Oh
But
my
but positive regression for him would mean a hamstring injury that would knock him out for a month.
exactly.
Like if we were doing like really like what he's going to regress to,
Right.
it would be a month-long hamstring injury. So I don't know if we want positive regression here or if we just want like, just keep what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. That's
Doing good
fine.
so
You know.
far. Yeah, that is the concern with Fournette, though, because he's had a bad injury history dating back to college.
He's been fine though. He's been fine
So far, but there's a risk, though. I mean, like
there's a risk for everybody.
I know that everyone's injury prone, but he's one of the most injury prone running backs in the league. Like he's gotten injured consistently almost every year, dating back to when he was at LSU.
I feel like he would have already. As soon as I say that, though, he's going to get injured this week.
Yeah, it scares me, but he's just doing too good. I would still take him. I would still the thing. Okay, but here's the other thing about like really injury prone players is like my mentality is, all right, sooner or later they have to have one. They just have to have one season by the law of averages where they don't get injured.
Positive regression.
And so like if this is his year where he doesn't get hurt, then I'm going to take that, and I probably won't draft him next year because I'm going to be like, well, he's going to go back to getting injured again. But this year, hopefully it lasts.
I think that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I hope so. And that is going to pretty much wrap us up today for the Roto Hackers podcast, the now 2-hour podcast. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Two Visions, Big House 2K, Stephen Drakes, Claudio 710, and Samuel Wilson. Thank you guys all for the great conversation and questions. Be sure to join us Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, when we talk about waiver wire pickups and what our thoughts were on the week before. And then we'll be here every Saturday. You already know we'll be here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm trying to see if there's some kind of funny note in the comments that I can throw up here to make everybody laugh. But anyway, thanks guys for tuning in. We will see you next time. Bye. There we go. We'll see you.
Bye.
We'll see you guys later. That's Judah Buddha. That's Jared. I'm AJ Herschel, and that's the StreamYard Doc.
Goodbye, guys. I got to run.
We'll see you next